All right, so welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. And I'm so excited to be sharing with you my summer guest series. And today I have a lovely guest with me. Her name is Criss Madrigal. And I actually met Criss many years ago. We were in the same coaching program, and our lives have kind of separated, and now they're back together again. So I'm so excited to bring her wisdom, her knowledge, her experiences to you today. So, Criss, welcome. And I'd love for you to share with our guests what led you here doing what you do.
Thank you, Angie. I'm just excited to be here with you. And like you said, just kind of reconnecting and our worlds coming back together. I don't think it's a coincidence. Um, it's beautiful. And for me, I was a Fortune 500 corporate leader for 20 years until I realized that I was no longer enjoying being in the corporate world. And that's around the time that our lives met when
Yeah.
I started to dive into personal development and started working with coaches to really go within, right? I'm a mom, wife. I've got three amazing kids, identical twin daughters that have a 22q deletion syndrome diagnosis. So that required a lot. It took a lot out of me as a mother. And right about the time that you and I met, which is, gosh, now 4 years
Yeah.
ago, I'm
Yeah.
losing track of time. But that was around the time when I realized that um, I had lost my identity in motherhood. In advocating for our twins who had a lot of medical um, complications and attention. And we had three children under the age of two. And so that whole part of just doing everything that we could for our three children to thrive led me to a state where I didn't recognize myself anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started my work and my self discovery. And so I started working with coaches. I had the opportunity to meet you at the beginning of that. And now, fast forward, that work has allowed me to really go into what I love. I left my corporate job last year
Mm.
to become an entrepreneur. And I can tell you that I am living the most beautiful part of my life. And that's because I've chosen to focus on the things that bring me joy, which was the number one thing is being there for my family,
Yeah.
being present with them. And along this whole journey, I'm sure you've heard this a lot. When we change, when we evolve, it has a ripple effect in our family. And
Yeah.
so going through that has also allowed my husband to just completely do a 360 in the most beautiful way. And I think every day is just a work of living in alignment. And now I love to bring that not just to myself, but to my clients. So here we are, long journey, but I'm so happy to be in this place. But knowing that there's still so much work to do as I continue to learn more about me now through human design.
Yeah.
So that was a lot there, but in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Well, and something that I heard you say that really stood out for me is I often, right, we're moms and we tend to think if we're taking care of ourselves that we're being selfish. And it rang so true in what you were saying that you realized that you weren't in alignment, you weren't feeling happy, and you took a step back. And it wasn't that you took a back to do more for your kids. You took a step back to do more for you so that you could show up for your kids and your husband in a totally different way. It gives me chills thinking about how as moms we tend to be such martyrs and think like, I'll take care of me later, but that's not how it works.
No. And it took me to the point of losing my identity, of, I guess you could say, creating my own disease
Yeah.
and develop an autoimmune condition
Yeah.
and not getting answers from anyone, doctor after doctor, telling me, you're fine. Everything comes back fine. But I'm looking at myself covered in hives, right? And I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
not okay, but nobody can give me answers
Yeah.
until I went and did the alternative medicine route. And there it was like, honey, you've been living in survival mode for the last decade. And
Yeah.
this is how your body's speaking to you.
Yeah. Uh,
That was a huge moment of transformation for me too. But it
yeah.
was beautiful because I said, well, if I caused this and if I've been doing the work on me, then I know how to fix it. It's all in
Yeah.
the mind.
Yeah.
And I was able to heal from this autoimmune condition.
That's wild. And it rings so true to what I myself have experienced too, is that when we're not listening to our body makes sure we listen and it'll do crazy, wild things. It'll create, yeah, hives or pains that have no known cause to them. And we think that there's something out there that can fix us. But the truth is, oftentimes if we caused it, we are the solution.
Ah,
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Um, you had also mentioned that you dabble in human design a little bit. So I I am so incredibly fascinated by the idea of having twins and how that all works with human design, right? Because it's based on the time that we're born. So I'm so curious, have you found any differences in their design, or like how does that play out with your kids?
so I'm going to be fully transparent and say that it's like I'm taking one child at a time. And when I look at the girls and I look at their designs, I mean, there's one little part on the design that is different,
Yeah.
yet they're completely different,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I'm still trying to learn and understand the intricacies of their design when it looks identical on paper. And they're identical twins. They were like 1 minute apart.
Yeah.
On the chart itself, it looks the same. Now, I do recall I had a astrological chart reading at one time, which is beautiful because it's different but similar, and it takes a lot of the same things into consideration. And I asked that question about the girls, and they said, well, twins are opposite. You can almost picture it as a yin and yang, you know?
Mm.
So even though they're just 1 minute apart, they're still going to have those differences. So I still have to dabble in more into theirs. And like I said, I'm going to say I'm fairly new at the time of this recording because there's so much.
Yes.
And I don't know when someone considers himself an expert in it, because it's like you scratch and you get more, and then you get more, and then you get more. But I can tell you that I've used it more with my son,
Yeah.
and in understanding his design has helped me a lot in how to parent him.
Yeah.
So if I just kind of take a step back, and for those that do understand human design, in our household, there are 5 of us. There's 4 projectors and a
Wow.
manifester.
Wow.
So when I learned that, it was so eye-opening to me. And I began to have conversations with my son to say, do you sometimes feel like we're just on slow motion? Like the family is in slow motion and you have like this energy, and like it just doesn't match us. And he just nods his head, you know? And as I began to dive more into his design as a manifester, I would ask him questions and he would just nod, yes,
Mm.
that's how I feel. And he's such a sweet boy, but in doing all that, it has helped me. Once you're into human design, like anything else, social media starts popping things up on your feeds, right?
Hmm.
And I see, manifestors. And if as a child you were asked to be homeschooled, or not go to school at all, you were on the right track. And I showed it to him because in the last year, he's been asked to be homeschooled.
Wow.
He's going to go into his junior year in high school. And I just started to dig in more. And when he first came to us and said, "Hey, I want to be homeschooled," I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do this? And all these different things popped up. I was like, you've got to go to school. But I started to do my research on the different options and what was available. And I got this message one day as I was in meditation, and it was a beautiful message that it was like, he, you guys are going to have to parent him differently than what you know.
Yeah.
He's got so many gifts that you don't even realize, but you
Yeah.
can't put him in a box. He's meant to shine differently. And so that day, it's like, oh my gosh, coming out of that meditation and just getting that beautiful message is that we are going to try things differently. And so we're going to try out, you know, hybrid where it's part homeschooling. He can't do full homeschooling because he's got advanced classes that are not offered. And so little things like that have really helped me try to understand him and gear him. I guess it's more on
Yeah.
how to parent him. And so it's helping me. And the way that I try to get a little bit of validation is by asking him, have you ever felt this, or this?
Yeah.
Or no? And so to me, it's like, okay, this is confirmation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. You were saying like you're like, I'm nowhere near an expert. And it's funny, like I feel like on both ends of that teeter-totter because for example, like my clients will ask me like, what does this gate number blah 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 mean? And I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. If it's not in my design, I have not dug in. I don't think I'm designed that way to be I don't have many ones in my profile. So digging in deep and researching and all that is not me. I'm a 2-5 profile. I want it easy, simple. I'll quickly, whatever I can learn easy, I'm happy with. And then if it's more work, then I'm like, no, no thanks. Um, but but what I am an expert at is exactly as you're describing that when my clients or my kids or my significant other or my best friend are sharing their experience and then I kind of pull through my knowledge that I do have, and I wonder, so when people are behaving, people are just being people out in the world, I now often ask that question, like, I wonder what it is in their design that's causing them to, react that way or pull back that way or engage in life the way that they are. And I don't know all the answers, but I know that I have the resources to look it up and to understand them better. And sometimes it's fun, old Angie would look at somebody and be like, oh, what's wrong with them? Or why would they act that way? And now I'm like, I wonder what's in their design. It's just such a different way to look at people, right?
Absolutely. I'm the same way. It's like I see people behaving certain ways, or I'm talking to friends now, and I'm like, I wonder what's their design.
Hmm.
And it's almost like, I don't know about you, Angie, it's almost like I can guess what it is
Yeah.
based on what I know about them now.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've been doing is one, really studying me, because that will help me, one, just understand me and dive deeper and be more in alignment with self. But two, understand my family,
Yeah.
understand my spouse together, see how we parent. That's one big thing. But then two, understand my clients, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I dive into my design, I'm not kidding. I have my family's charts across. Boop, 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 boop. And I look at one part and then I look at theirs, So seeing that in our family, there's 4 projectors and 1 manifester. We're all emotional authority. And I think you asked, like, what? Yeah, all of us.
Yeah.
Now I see it, right?
Yeah.
My kids are all 6'2", profile. And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. Like, I don't have enough time to want to dig into everything. And I'm like, no, because once I start, like, I just go.
Yeah.
until my mind is like, you need to stop, But I'm so fascinated and I've always loved learning. And now I understand. And I think
Yeah.
that's the beautiful piece that, maybe some people don't realize is you feel seen,
Mhm.
like you understand yourself. And so when I look at that, it's like, oh my gosh, my kids are going to feel seen by their parents.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, I think too, like, I think a lot about the more that I understand myself and honestly, like using the tool of human design to shed all the stories that I had about myself that weren't true, that, like you talk about it as misalignment. A lot of people do. And I think about it like I have such beautiful gifts. You have such beautiful gifts. Your kids do. We all do. But life sh- dulls that. It covers it up. And so using human design as that tool to shed all that ugly, whatever it is, so that we can be more aligned and really step into who we are has given me this ability to be more confident in who I am, but also with my clients. I see now how there are elements in my design that set me up to be an amazing coach, that there are parts of me that like I attract to me the people who need the energy that I have. So I'm so curious if there are things that you've found in your design that you see as like your special gifts. I know you have so many, but are there any things that whether it's in your design or in your experiences also that you share with your clients?
Yeah, one of the biggest, I would say, revelations for me was just one, understanding the projector piece and being a 3-5. And I was able to see so clearly when I was out of alignment. And I remember the moment when I was like, okay, I'm just going to go into this human design thing because I had someone, a mentor that kept telling me about it. And she kept kind of, you're this, you're this. She used it. It wasn't making sense. Finally, I'm like, let's do this. And that was a moment in time where I was feeling so bitter
Mm,
about different business relationships that I was in. And I was like, something's off. And I was like, that's it. That was a moment in time where like, I'm going all in. And those things started to reveal itself like, oh, you're bitter. You're out of alignment. Look to see where you're out of alignment. And it was this huge part that opened up for me where I was able to see how much I was dimming my light to not outshine others. And I was
ah,
able to see that since childhood, at the workplace when I was in corporate, and even in current spaces that I was in at that moment. And it was like how I was always ahead of others. Some things just came easy to me. I could always get things done faster than others, but it wasn't always necessarily viewed as a positive thing with my peers. I was always like, just let me just keep it down here so I don't
mhm.
make others feel bad. And in that moment, I was in a couple business collaborations and I was able to see exactly why it wasn't flowing for me, why I was feeling misaligned. And I'll tell you, Angie, I made the decision to walk away from those collaborations. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And one of them was one that I had invested a lot of time and money. And to be able to stand there and have that conversation and say, something feels out of alignment and I'm going to honor who I am. So I'm going to pause right here so I can kind of see that. And then the response that I got from one person further confirmed I was not in the right space.
Yeah.
The other person understood it. And she's like, Criss, you're just ahead of everyone else in this space. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So it was so different. But being able to see that was like, freedom. Like, this
Yeah.
is who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm holding myself back. I'm keeping my gifts to myself because I'm more concerned of trying to not outshine others. But that's just within my design. That's just who I am. And it
Yeah.
came so, it just came through so clearly. And I mean, that's one example, right? And then it was just trying to understand, you know, why I couldn't let go of one of those, you know, collaborations. And it really came down to, as a projector, as a 3-5, there's a lot of times when you're just different, not in a bad way. They're just not as many as you.
Yeah.
And so it was more of, I wanted to have a sense of belonging,
Mm. Yeah.
but being in that space was keeping me small.
Yeah.
And when
Oh,
I let go of that, other people came into my world, which were the people, the groups, the environment, the energy, the frequency that I was wanting to call in.
yeah. Oh, I love that on so many different levels because um, you were talking about really shedding old stories about yourself, breaking that pattern, and that when you let go of what wasn't aligned with you, you created this beautiful space for what was aligned with you to come in. And what I was thinking as you were talking was that this, I think, is where a lot of the parents that I work with get stuck, is that they have all of this conditioning about how we're supposed to parent our kids, whether it's their old generational patterns that they can't let go of, or the pressure they feel from their spouse or their ex-spouse, or from school, from social media, right? Like parents feel all this pressure, and there might be parts of their design that are designed to be kind of stuck. And I love how the solution you shared to that is understanding us really is how we get unstuck. It isn't about another tool, another strategy. It's about understanding us. Would you say that that is true?
Yes, because I think, I mean, you said it, Angie. We all have conditioning, but it's like, that's not our beliefs. If
Mm,
you really go down to it, like the first, and you might know this better than me because this is your space, but the first 6, 7 years of your life, that's when you're being conditioned, right? As a child. But we have no control over what we're being fed at that time. And
mhm.
then we accept it because we're children. And then we just continue to accept what our parents, what society, and what it should look like.
Yeah,
And we take that for what it is.
yeah,
But that's not who you are deep inside. So
yeah,
now it's coming back to you. It's remembering who you are. And in those moments, it's kind of like, well, who am I? Who am I? And I think that's sometimes the hardest part, right?
mhm,
Sitting in stillness to hear yourself. When I
yeah,
started asking myself, when did I trade, my voice? When did I trade my voice to fit in? When did I dim my light to have a sense of belonging? Those are the things that it's like, gosh, when I started looking into him, it brought tears to my eyes. Like, when did I leave myself behind? When did I trade who I was in order to fit in
mhm,
order to belong to a community, to even feel like you belong to your family? Because
yeah,
I'll tell you something, throughout the last few years, when I've really delved into personal development, and just energy and frequency and vibrating, I'm changing. And to have, close people say, well, she's not the same person. I remember having a conversation with my mom one day, and I was like, no, I'm not the same person, Mom. And it was such a beautiful conversation, right? I was like, Mom, I'm not the same person. I've changed. I said, but that's because I'm choosing me. Like, I'm tired of, you know, allowing other people to make me feel bad. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. Now I'm who I am
Hmm.
because it, I'm no longer going to accept anything else than that. And she was like, good.
Yeah.
But I think it really got her thinking. I
Yeah.
said, no, I'm done. I want to live life differently. I want to be at peace. And I could see how that is trickling on to my children. So right now, yes, I'm very focused on my immediate family, my children. I want them to feel who they are. Like I mentioned my son and how I've used this towards my son more than my daughters, but I carried so much guilt, Angie, for so many years because of the amount of time that our daughters required when they were young. And even though my husband and I really try to balance things out and share equal amount of time with them, they required a lot more time.
Yeah.
And so I carried so much guilt. And to now see how guilt and shame vibrate at the lowest frequency, it was like, well, no wonder. No wonder as much as I work and do, like I'm vibrating low. So to be able to go to my son and say, hey, I want to have this conversation with you. You know, I just want to apologize if you ever felt invisible. I was doing the best I could in that time. And I was so proud of myself. I told my husband, like, I was able to have this conversation without crying. And he's like, Mom, I never felt that way. And I said, I understand. I said, but sometimes our mind blocks certain memories because they're painful. And you might not remember this. I said, but you once told me how, and I forget the exact words, but it's like, how is it that you notice everyone else, but not me? And that's really when the guilt sank in. And I carried it for so many years.
Yeah.
So having the courage to have that conversation with him, it was like the biggest release ever. And I said, look, I'm here now. Uh, we did what we could at that time, but we can make up that time, you know? And that's what I want. Like, I want them to feel seen. I want my children to feel heard, but I want them to do it by who they are, not who we want them to be, not
Yeah.
how we're teaching them. Like, so it's huge. It's so huge for me to be able to understand them and use all of this to rise as a family.
Yeah. Oh, but it's just so beautiful. And I think like I'm an adult and I just think like had my parents said something like that to me, like if you ever felt invisible, I'm sorry for that. Like how much that could change a child's trajectory into really feeling safe to be their authentic selves and feeling like they really are seen. I think that's such a beautiful gift that you gave to him. He might not understand it now, but I think in the same way that his words hit your heart, that I trust that yours hit his too, even if he doesn't quite know it yet. Oh, oh my goodness, I love that so much. Ah, I I could talk to you forever. I would love though to I would love to hear, so you work with parents, right?
I work primarily with women
Okay.
and parents. It does, if I just say women because I tend to attract more women,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it can
Well,
be parents.
yeah, okay. So, I would love to hear, so my audience tends to be parents who are, well, first and foremost, they tend to be struggling with behaviors. I think that's who I attract, are parents who are like at the end of their rope. They don't know what else to do. And, but I invited you on here because I love the message that you share about burnout and really like understanding ourselves. And so I would love it if you have any practical tips to share with the parents who are listening, something that they can do to, I don't know, help get themselves back on track, help them find that alignment that you found for yourself?
Yeah. And, I think the biggest thing that I like to remind people of is to really understand when you're falling out of alignment, right? And that's going to start to surface when you're feeling burnt out, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling angry, sad. Identify when in those moments, really stop and ask yourself what feels off. And I tell people, live in alignment. Your core values are that internal GPS. So when you're feeling off, I say, when I'm bitter, when I'm overwhelmed, I know I'm out of alignment. So it's time to pause and say, where am I not living by my core values? Those non negotiables. And we have to sit down and get quiet. And that's what a lot of people don't do because we live in such a fast pace life. But it's like the moment you do that, you're going to realize what's off. And you have to honor that. You have to honor that because if you don't, you're going to continue down that pattern. And that's what I love to do, right? I love to show people where they're out of alignment. And I have a beautiful alignment audit assessment that people can do for free, which just takes your core areas of life to really just reveal to you what's off. And the people that take it often say, I thought it was in this area, but it was over here. And
Mm,
it really revealed this to me. So that's the primary thing. Let's identify where you're off so you can bring it back. Because the people that continue in this state of burnout and the state of fatigue and this state that takes them into, diseases, health issues, it's because they're not living in alignment with their core values.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like I've been there too, right? Where I am not in alignment. I'm in this cycle of burnout and I feel like I'm burnt out because, and I think you said this, but I feel like I'm burnt out because I'm doing so much to help everybody else. But I know I was helping them from a very empty cup. So what I was giving the people that I love most was so mediocre because I was out of alignment. So I love that you have an assessment. So we'll make sure we get info about that in the show
Yeah.
notes so people can check that out. That that's such a good, important reminder that our body is telling us, our energy is telling us when we're out of alignment. That's so cool. I also, before we finish up here, you had mentioned that you have something exciting coming up. And so I think the timing of the release of this is like right in the mix of that. So
Yeah.
can you tell the listeners what you have going on mid-July?
Yes. So July 15th and 16th, I'm doing a free masterclass and it's called Rise, A Journey Back to You. And I
Oh,
am so excited about this because it goes kind of hand in hand with what we're talking about. And it's going to be focused on how to really silence all the noise around you and really return home to you.
oh, so cool.
And I'll share that link with you as well for any of your listeners who want to join. And I mean, that's keeping it just super brief, right? But we're going to really go into how do I return home to me? What does that look like? What does that
Yeah.
even mean, right? But it really goes with everything that we've been talking about. When you're living in alignment, you're living with your core values. You're living by who you are. And oftentimes that's just overshadowed. We forget because we're so caught up in what are the things that I should be doing in life to look successful, to be successful, to feel successful, when success could be something so much different for you.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. Well, we'll definitely make sure we have the link to your masterclass in the show notes so that people can check that out. And how else can listeners find you? What's the best way for listeners to find you?
I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. It's my name, Criss Madrigal, so they can take a look at that on the notes just because it's spelled a little different. but I'm in either one of those. I'm on those three platforms, so people can just reach out to me. And either
Yeah.
one. I'd love to connect, and I'd love to always just, say hello to new people.
Oh, perfect. Well, Criss, thank you so much for being a guest on Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I loved your story and your wisdom and the tips that you shared. Is there any last things that you want to make sure you share with the audience before we wrap up?
Just live in alignment with who you are, and so much peace will come into your life as a result.
Oh, perfect. That's a perfect way to end this. So that is it. So thanks for listening. We'll connect soon.